You're listening to Thursday Night AMP on the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Thursday night AngryMarks.com pro wrestling and whatever the heck you want to talk about podcast. My name is Stevie J. Joining me on the line, at least for the first half hour, and then he may want to bow out when Hell in a Cell comes around, but I hope not, the great Sudoku, Jason Harlan.
I'm just upset that WWE isn't calling their next Saudi Arabia tour Greatest Balls of Fire.
Yeah, that's a lost opportunity, especially given how hot it is in Jeddah. Your balls really would be on fire.
Oh, and right after the Evolution pay-per-view, too.
You know, maybe they were trying to go for that idea because they are calling it Crown Jewel. And when I think of the Crown Jewels, I think of something south of the equator.
Well, isn't that also the name that Chase Owens goes by? Are they signing Chase Owens there?
No, I don't believe Man Bun is going to WWE.
No, I don't think he would fit in well there, but I wouldn't even wish Hiroki Goto to go to WWE. I wouldn't wish that upon him.
Even
Taichi, maybe.
Well, no, I wouldn't wish that on him at this point.
Kanemaru, I would.
Maybe Kanemaru. But hey, I want to go off topic for just a second before we get into the latest New Japan shows. I wanted to ask you about the PlayStation Classic. Have you seen the news?
What is the news on this? I've heard rumblings on podcasts, but I haven't seen it other than just hearing about it secondhand stuff.
All right. Well, it comes out December 3rd, 2018 for a manufacturer-suggested retail price of $99.99. It comes with 2 controllers with USB ports. There are no analog sticks on it, and it resembles the old original PlayStation with the original PlayStation controllers.
Is this the one that's like the hybrid with hardware and software emulation going on with it?
They haven't really specified whether it's going to be a all-in-one chip or whether it's going to be emulation. They have not said one way or the other what exactly it's going to run. I suspect that it's probably not going to be a field programmable gate array. I suspect it will probably be an emulation box of some kind.
That would be the cheaper way to go.
It would be. And the form factor is, for all intents and purposes, ripping off the Super Nintendo Classic and the Nintendo Classic right down to the name. They've basically taken the idea and run with it and made a shrunk-down version of their own console.
Now, I'm just waiting for the N64 Classic to come out.
That's probably a year or two away. They're still trying to figure out whether or not and how they can even do that, considering...
With the license of games that have since expired, like GoldenEye.
Actually, that isn't even the biggest problem. The biggest problem is the analog stick on the N64 controllers, which you might note is one of the reasons PlayStation is not doing that with their Classic.
What's the big deal with analog sticks not working with these?
Well, it's not that they don't work, it's just that they're more expensive to
No, they're
produce.
too expensive to put on there, yeah.
Right. You're going to have some problems getting it into a retail price that people want to pay if you do it that way.
Well, I suppose you could, sell your default controllers, but also have third-party controllers, or have actual, controllers sold separately that have an analog stick on them for people who want to pay the extra money for an extra analog stick.
Right. That is a possibility. And I have heard people speculate that they could do multiple versions of the PlayStation Classic, like they could do the PS1 Classic, and that one could come with the dual analog sticks.
Indeed. Play some good old Tomb Raider and NHL, what was it, 96 that was on that system?
What's funny is those games, like you, I think instantly of certain games, and those are not the games that they've announced. Do you know the list?
No, I'm not familiar with the list.
Okay, well, there's only 5 so far that have been announced. It's supposed to come with 20, and the 5 they've announced are Ridge Racer 4, Tekken 3, Wild Arms, Final Fantasy 7, and Jumping Flash.
Well, you've got a Tekken game and a Final Fantasy game. I don't know if I would chose those two, but yeah, the others are kind of head scratchers.
Yeah, I've heard some people say that Tekken 3 is the best of the Tekken fighting series, but I would have to go back and play each Tekken game to really establish whether that's the case or not. Wild Arms, I get that one because it's an RPG and it's kind of popular, so that makes sense. And Jumping Flash is one of those PlayStation games from the early days that I'm actually nostalgic for because it was a very early 3D environmental game where you literally jumped around like House of Pain trying to get to all the different things in a three-dimensional environment.
There's no WCW Thunder?
Well, there's where you're going to start having the licensing problems.
Oh, that was one of the worst wrestling games ever.
Yeah, and I doubt they could get the rights to those names or trademarks even if they wanted to, which is why you probably won't see a Gran Turismo game on there either, because those were all real cars, and I don't think they could get the names or licenses for all of those cars.
Interesting. Yeah, how things have tightened with music and copyrights and things that might be in games back then that weren't quite as tight on copyright as they are now, too.
Yeah, which may also hurt the Wipeout games, because those had some very interesting original soundtracks by well-known artists, so that could potentially shelve those games as well. But what games would you want on your PlayStation Classic?
So the first two that come to mind are Tomb Raider and I think it was NHL 96 or 97, one of the NHL games and the first Tomb Raider game.
That's it? Nothing else comes to mind?
Those are the first two that instantly spring to mind. Those were the two that I played back in the day over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to try to pick a few more besides that. I'm not going to purposefully pick something that used the dual analog sticks, but if you notice that I did, please point it out to me and I will say, whoops, my bad. But I have a few suggestions for the other 15 games that I think they could put onto this thing, and I'm going to start with one that's probably impossible for licensing reasons, but I'm going to suggest it anyway. Marvel vs. Capcom.
Oh, good one.
Yeah, because you know me, anytime there's a Mega Man fighting game and I can play as Mega Man, I'm all about that. And that was the first really big crossover for me, was like, holy shit, all these Marvel comic book universe characters and all these Capcom video game characters, I marked the fuck out for that.
And it kind of took the best of everything that had come before it in fighting games and incorporated into this game with Marvel and Capcom characters. Just some insane combos and insane moves that could be pulled off.
Absolutely. And here's one that I consider essential, but I can't remember if it had the dual analog sticks or not, but I don't think it did. Oddworld Abe's Odyssey.
I don't remember that one.
It's a very unique puzzle platformer game where you play this character named Abe who has to rescue his fellow species before they get sent to the slaughtering grounds to become packaged meat product.
Okay.
It's got a very cheeky sense of humor to it. It's really dry and witty. It's right down to the actual like posters for the products, you know, like Mudokon pies instead of mud pies. You know, there's like posters on the walls.
And that was kind of the strong point, at least at the time, that was the strong point of the PS1 as opposed to the N64 was the graphics that it had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Although those graphics look a little dated right now.
Yeah, they have not aged well, but at the time, I mean, it just blew everything else out of the water.
Totally agree. For that reason, I would also include the original Grand Theft Auto if the license is available for that, because it would be nice to see the roots of Grand Theft Auto before it became Grand Theft 3, 4, the big franchise.
Before it became a GTA franchise, back when it was just Grand Theft Auto.
Exactly.
And kind of that faux 3D, that kind of top-down view.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm going to suggest this probably won't happen because there's already the Insane Trilogy, but I would love to see Crash Bandicoot on there.
That would be a good one, too.
Mm-hmm. To me,
Get some platformers on there.
And he was kind of the unofficial Sony/PlayStation mascot because they did all those commercials with the gigantic Crash Bandicoot costume and the guy with the bullhorn yelling at Nintendo. So I kind of have fond memories of that.
Oh, wow. I almost forgot about those. You jogged my memory talking about those commercials.
Yep. You can find them on YouTube, actually, if you ever want to watch them. They're still out there.
Angry Marks brought to you by Crash Bandicoot commercials.
And if we're going to put another RPG on there, I'm going to suggest Chrono Cross, which is one of my favorite RPGs of all time, a brilliant sequel to Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, I remember Chrono Trigger. I don't think I played Chrono Cross.
Oh, it is so epic because there's two different universes and you're just jumping back and forth between them, meeting alternate versions of yourself and all the other characters in the game.
Oh, cool. Mirror Universe.
Yeah, it's not quite a Mirror Darkly, but there are some characters whose personalities really do get flipped in a way you wouldn't expect.
Oh, yes, we were talking about like Star Trek ringtones and what you'd want to have in the Star Trek game that I play online, and I was like, oh, I would take In a Mirror Darkly's opening theme from the Enterprise episodes and make that into a ringtone.
Yeah, that would be a good choice. And, you know, if they could get the license for it, they could throw a Star Trek game onto this thing as well, like Star Trek Invasion. That'd be a good choice.
Like, all I'm thinking about are shitty wrestling games that were on the PS1, like WCW Backstage Assault, and was it WWF Attitude?
Yeah.
WWF Warzone.
If you want a really crappy one, I own a copy of WCW NWO Thunder.
Yes, that was the first one that I mentioned. That one was notoriously bad. I mean, at least with Backstage Assault, I mean, there was some fun in ripping urinals off the wall and beating your opponent senseless with them, but Thunder was just crap.
Yeah, that one is a total piece of garbage.
That one's just not fun to play. It's kind of like the ECW games that were, just not fun at all to play.
And you know, some people are saying this thing should come with video games that are hard to find or really rare or just seminal and obscure, and people would buy it just to have that game since it can't be got any other way. So for that reason
Which is a good idea, yeah.
For that reason alone, I'm going to suggest they work out the licensing agreement and get Pepsi Man. But it won't happen. I know that for a fact. I know Pepsi ain't going to let them put that on a PlayStation Classic.
No, they would not let that one. They would not let that cat out of the bag.
No. And for that reason, something like Rockman Battle and Chase, or Mega Man Battle and Chase as it was known in Europe, probably not going to happen either because those games never existed here, and for the North American market, they're going to think, no, nobody cares about that.
Yeah, see, that was my question is, would there be any interesting games that never made it over here that were big in Japan or that were big in Europe or overseas somewhere that didn't get a release here, but that's kind of gained a cult following because of that?
Well, along that very note, I would put Vib Ribbon on there if it was up to me, but then that really doesn't work because there's no way to load an audio CD to have the Vib travel along and play. So unless you could stick an MP3 drive into one of the USB slots, then that might work.
Oh, but it actually relied on the CD drive itself.
Yeah,
as a CD drive.
That game was unique because it loaded the entire game data into the RAM of the PlayStation, and then you put in an audio CD, and it read that and generated the game.
Wow.
Yeah, Vib Ribbon's kind of fucked up cool like that, but it was kind of the early era of rhythm slash, Parappa the Rap style games where you had to do things in time to the beat. Speaking of which, Parappa the Rapper should be on there.
There you go.
I'm probably running out. I think I'm up to like 10 out of 15 already. I probably can't squeeze too many more on there. But I do have one more suggestion before we move on from the topic.
What's that?
I consider this one a deal breaker if they don't put it on there. This one is that important to me. Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
Ooh. Possibly
the greatest Metroidvania game of all time. And by your silence, I'm going to assume you agree with that.
Just, yeah, taking the step from earlier consoles onto the PlayStation and just larger than life.
Oh, everything about that game is larger than life. From the 202.6 completion percentage you need to finish the game, the inverted castle that mirrors the regular castle, the elements that you can collect and use as whichever character you're playing as. I mean, everything, the music especially, oh my god, the music in Symphony of the Night lives up to the word symphony. I can listen to it without even playing the game. It's that good.
It's not shitty, but I would like to see the Angry Video Game Nerd watch it or play that game and just swear at it repeatedly.
Well, it is kind of hard as balls in some places.
Yes, exactly.
He did do that with Earthbound, I noticed. He praised the game, but then he also bitched a lot.
Yeah, every time he dies, fuck!
You know, I just saw a new episode on Amazon Prime that I don't think is released on YouTube yet.
Because I do have Amazon Prime. I didn't realize that AVGN was on Amazon Prime. Interesting.
Yeah, in fact, I believe the new episodes are exclusive to Prime. They start there first, and then they go up on YouTube later. I think there's some sort of licensing agreement. But the latest one I saw, coincidentally enough, given the game you suggested, was Tomb Raider games.
Awesome.
Yeah, that episode came out September 5th, and he admitted that Tomb Raider was a good franchise and that this was going to be a difficult episode, but he purposefully sought out the shittiest Tomb Raider games.
I'm sure he found some, too.
Oh, Age of Darkness was high on the list. I believe he spent more time on that one than the others combined.
It wouldn't surprise me.
No, it was funny because he would actually quote from the developers who made the games, and they were saying things like, this one was toilet trash. We were working on it for 3 years, and we got sick of it, and by the time it was done, we just didn't care anymore. And James looks at the camera and he goes, wow, that's the first time the publisher ever reviewed the game for me.
First time they gave an honest explanation of what went on behind the scenes.
Right. And I believe
this was crap, we knew it, and we just didn't feel like working on it anymore, so we released it as is.
Yeah, and then there was another entry where he read from the developer and they were like, we killed her off in the last game, so we really thought this franchise was over, but then we got stuck with this, and we had to do it, and it sucked, and it shows. So that's our video game corner for the week. I just figured we could go off topic for a little bit since we always talk about wrestling, but we never get to talk about classic video games, and I know that's something you and I are both big on.
And wrestling video games. Some good, some bad.
Yeah. I suppose there could be one wrestling game on there, but it might have to be something without any kind of licensed characters in it. It might have to be like a Fire Pro game.
Well, I was going to ask if there were muscle games that came out for PlayStation.
I'm sure there have to be. I'm going to look since you brought it up.
I mean, that's probably a license that they could get.
Yeah, I think so. Let me see. Although, no, there's a PlayStation 2 one, Galactic Wrestling Ultimate Muscle. Let me see. Yeah, it doesn't look like Muscle was on the PlayStation. It looks like it started with PS2.
Now, you see, if I lived in California, I'd get one of these PlayStation Classics and take it into Luna and say, yeah, can you put a mod chip on this?
Yeah, and Ian would throw you the hell out of the store. He'd be like, get out of here, go!
That or he'd laugh. He'd get a kick out of it.
One or the other, yes. Yeah, he might have a good sense of humor about it. But you know that somebody's going to do that the minute these things hit stores. Somebody's going to find, like, the PlayStation equivalent of Hack-Chi and start loading their own PlayStation games onto it.
Homebrews and stuff. I mean, if it's a straight-up emulator, I don't see why not.
Mm-hmm. The only problem is if it's a dual analog stick game, you're going to be shit out of luck.
Yeah, unless you can find some kind of hack to get an original controller to plug into this thing.
I mean, it's kind of like the people who hack their NES Classic and put Duck Hunt on there. It's like, what's the fucking point?
There's no gun.
Yeah, there's no light gun, and even if there was, it wouldn't work with modern TVs. You need a cathode ray tube TV.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I think they could do a dual analog stick, if it was just something that was a straight USB controller.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they could, I suppose, release like a software update on a ROM stick and then sell it in a bundle with a dual analog controller, and they're like, okay, here's some more games and plug this in and it'll work now.
Yeah, that That'd be a great idea, actually. Yeah, bundle dual analog stick games with a dual analog stick controller.
Mm-hmm.
Or two controllers, for that matter.
License to print money. In fact, Sony should be paying us for these ideas. Come on.
Yeah, hit us up. We're on Patreon. No, we're really not, but
We should.
give us money anyway.
Yeah, we should. And speaking of people who deserve our money, let's talk about New Japan Pro Wrestling.
New Japan, who had two shows over the weekend. They had Destruction in Hiroshima and Destruction in Beppu. And as I was talking about on the previous shows, these are kind of like 1/3 pay-per-views each. They're not... Ugh. I mean, it's better than WWE. I'll preface it by saying that. It's better than WWE. I kind of have higher standards for New Japan. But in any case, it's better than what you'll watch on WWE Network.
Oh, easily. Very easily.
But that said, this is kind of the lull in between the G1 Climax and Wrestle Kingdom, so we're kind of in a lull there, and this is kind of this is kind of one event, the Destruction thing that's spread out over 3 cities in 3 days, so they're not exactly putting their best foot forward.
No, definitely not.
I'll run down the results from the first day and the second day, and then go into the show that's coming up this weekend, and go through my notes on the shows there. The first match, it was really good to see Rocky Romero in the ring again. We had Roppongi 3K with Rocky Romero taking on Jushin Liger, Tiger Mask, and Kushida. And I don't know what it is with Japan, but when that Jushin Thunder Liger theme hits, I mean, those fans pop like it was 20 years ago.
Well, it's kind of like bringing out Hulk Hogan in WWE. It's like nostalgia waves. Like, oh my God, we know this song. We know this guy.
Yeah, except I don't think that Liger has gone on any racist tirades, to my knowledge.
Well, no, he hasn't. Or at least, like you said, not that we know about. But correct me if I'm wrong, this match ended with a tiger suplex.
Yes, a very, very textbook one. It looked beautiful. Tiger Mask pinned Rocky Romero, unfortunately, but it was a beautiful looking tiger suplex, and Tiger Mask is one of those guys that it's easy to forget is in New Japan because he does a ton of these opening matches, and his name isn't Jushin Liger, but he's decent in his own right, and Kushida was on their team too, but it's Kushida.
You just, every time Kushida comes up, you just have to get in a remark like that.
He's kind of like the Hiroki Gato of the junior heavyweight division.
Oh man, I'm not going to agree with you on that
We'll
one.
get there. We'll get there when we get there.
Yeah.
And then, I will read verbatim the next match just directly from my notes that I took on this show here. Fale beats Hinare in a singles match 'cause reasons.
Well, he did get the pin with the grenade, so for whatever that's worth.
In a 2-minute, 46-second squash match.
Yeah. What was that I believe it was our guest, Peach Machine, said? Bad luck fail. Fail is in his name.
Oh, and I'm just so sick of the Tongans after the G1. I just really am. I don't want to see them in the ring. Ugh.
And the momentum for this whole OGs versus Bullet Club feud seems to have evaporated into thin air.
They didn't run. I mean, yeah, it's like they would either not run with it or they just kind of made it the hill to die on, and there was no in-between and no direction with it.
No, there wasn't.
It's just like one week we're OG Bullet Club, the next week, oh, well, we're the Tongans, and I've got a singles match, and, my other crew has a 6-man title match, and, no continuity with that whatsoever. I don't think they know what to do with Bullet Club at this point.
No, they don't.
Yeah, sad.
Alright, then we've
Although
got...
at some point I hope AJ Styles comes back, because I would love to see Kenny Omega and AJ Styles face off one-on-one.
Well, coincidentally enough, though, you said there's no direction for Bullet Club, and we got a Bullet Club match next.
Do we? I thought we had a Suzuki-Gun match next.
I thought it was Chaos and Bullet Club. Am I off in my notes here? Oh, yeah, I think we got Killer Elite Squad.
Yeah,
next.
we had Killer Elite Squad killing a young lion.
Yeah,
that was fun.
Thank you. I got ahead of myself. I apologize for that.
It was Killer Elite Squad taking on Michael Elgin and a young lion named Ayato Yoshida, and as we figured, he would eat the pin, and they gave him the Killer Bomb, and it was about what you would expect, but it's good to see a tag team like Killer Elite Squad dominate in a match like that.
Oh yeah. No question.
Then we got the Bullet Club match.
Right, and this time the Bullet Club was Yujiro Takahashi and the aforementioned man bun, Chase Owens.
The crown jewel, Chase Owens.
Mm-hmm.
And Kota Ibushi taking on Will Ospreay, Beretta, and Chucky T. And I know I am in the minority here, but I have never seen the appeal of Chucky T, and I just don't get it.
I guess the only way I can explain it is if you've ever been to a show where he was working live, he is an experience. His personality and charisma really shines through, even on the indiest of indie shows.
Kind of like Joey Janela that isn't a sleaze.
Yeah, basically, yeah. A less sleazy Joey Janela. That's a good way of putting it. Although, he can be a rat bastard. I'm not saying he isn't sleazy, but he can fight dirty. He's like the dirtiest player in the indie game.
He can be, yeah. I just never really saw the appeal. I mean, Beretta, Beretta's kind of a journeyman at this point. He had some fun with Roppongi Vice back in the day, too. He had his stint in WWE, and he's made a name for himself. He's held his own in Best of the Super Junior tournaments before, so yeah, I kind of get him. Will Ospreay, I certainly get. I don't think anybody gets Yujiro.
Except me, because I still like our sleaze.
I don't hate him. He's just kind of there. Ibushi is great, and Will likes Chase Owens, so that makes one person.
Mm-hmm.
That's one Chase Owens fan out there.
Well, anyway, I believe this one ended with a double stomp assisted dude buster.
Yes, which they call Strong Zero. Yeah, it was basically the old Roppongi Vice finisher, but without Rocky Romero.
Yep.
And Man Bun ended up eating the pin.
Which is okay. I have no issue with that.
Yeah, I mean, it was could be if that team was going to lose, it was either going to be him or Takahashi. They're going to protect Kota Ibushi at all costs.
Of course, yeah. There was no way Kota was eating the pin.
And next up, we have Jonathan Courtright, the most useless title in all of New Japan Pro Wrestling, the never open weight 6-man tag team championship, a title so worthless I forgot who even held it.
I'm going to debate whether the singles never open weight title is more worthless or not.
That case could be made because it is a singles title.
At least
there's just lower expectations and lower standards for a 6-man title because they're crap to begin with anyway. You don't have much expectation going in.
Well, that's true.
But yeah, we have the champions, Taiji Ishimori and the Tongans, Tongaloa and Tamatanga, taking on, Taguchi Japan isn't a thing. I refuse to acknowledge it as a thing. Taking on Ryusuke Taguchi, David Finlay, and Juice Robinson. And guess who ate the pin in this one?
I believe it was David Finlay.
Yes, El Hijo del Finlay.
All right. Well, a nothing match with no title change, so we can move on.
Yay. God, that match was boring as shit. Speaking of boring as shit, up in the next match is Yoshinobu Kanemaru with Iizuka and Taichi taking on Gato, Yano, and Gato. There's some rhyming for you. This match ended in a disqualification, but what really stood out about this match was after the match where Taichi just lays Gato out, pins him, kind of mocks a 3 count, and the crowd goes nuts. I don't know if the crowd likes Taichi and hated Gato there in Hiroshima, or if they just wanted to see a real finish instead of a fuck finish, but they were cheering Taichi when he pinned Gato after the match and it didn't count.
I think there are some markets and some events where Taichi gets a really big reaction, because I remember...
this was one of them.
we had this exact same debate for the Dominion show when I was like, I know you don't like Taichi, but the crowd was really into it, because we had that exact same conversation then.
I was wondering if the crowd, like I said, did they want a real finish? Did they not want a fuck finish? Did they like Taichi? Or did they just dislike Gato as much as I do?
I honestly think that there are crowds in Japan that really, really dig Taichi as much as Will.
Some things I don't get about Japanese wrestling, and that's one of them. I watch a lot of Japanese wrestling, but people being a fan of Taichi, I don't get it. I don't get it.
Well,
Why do people like Taichi?
All right. Settle down, Sudoku Seinfeld. But here's one that you should get. Los Ingobernables over El Despi, Misu, Taka, and Zack Sabre.
Which is fun when Taka just comes out with the mic and starts, going off to the crowd in Japanese, and then introduces Zack Sabre Jr. and goes, and just tap out!
Yeah, it's so beautiful to hear that.
But yeah, Taka ended up eating the pin in this one.
The Magic Killer.
Yes, from Evil.
Mm-hmm. Although when I think of Magic Killer, that's not the usual person.
No, that's Yeah, that's the move that Anderson and Gallows used.
Right. That I always think of the club when I think of that move.
But everybody after they leave, everybody steals everybody else's moves.
That is so true. And
It's like you'll see Styles clashes come out in matches. You'll see Bloody Sunday come out in New Japan matches. It's like when a guy leaves, their moves are fair game.
yeah, that's fair. But nobody left right away after this match, though. We had some post-match antics.
Of course we did.
Yeah.
It's Suzuki-gun. It's Suzuki-gun. You can't have a Suzuki-gun match without in-match antics, post-match antics, pre-match antics.
If I remember correctly, they paired off, and Misu was going after Naito, and Evil and Zack Sabre Jr. got into it.
Had been a submission on the floor because Naito and Suzuki were facing off in the next Destruction show in Beppu.
Yep, so good little development there. I always like that kind of continuity when they set up angles from one show to the next.
And yeah, with Minoru Suzuki, you just kind of expect it at this point. Mm-hmm. It's just like after the match, he's going to kill somebody, and if there's a wrestler around, great. If not, Young Lions are going to get killed. We had two guys that are very, very injured. Well, I guess Hanma's back from injury, and Togi Makabe taking on a Chaos team of Jay White, Kazuchika Okada, and Yoshihashi. Which one of these doesn't fit?
I'll let you be the judge of that.
That would be Yoshihashi, and guess who ate the pin in this one?
I can't remember. I'm drawing a total blank on this match. Oh, okay. See, I've literally forgotten everything about this match. I'm sorry.
I mean, you kind of have that dynamic with Jay White and Okada. You know, are they getting along? Are they not getting along? Is there a power struggle? Is there not a power struggle? And that's kind of what was played out. That's what stood out to me in this match more so than the match itself. And, you know, Tana carrying around his briefcase that, you know, says he won the G1 and showing that off and
You know, I think the reason I forgot this match was because of Omega and Ishii. I think all of my attention was focused on that.
And yeah, again, I will have to preface this. I will say this is not their best match that I've seen, but I will preface that by also saying that is because some of their previous matches have just been barn burners.
Yeah.
This was by no means a disappointment. There's better matches these two have wrestled, but this was not a disappointment at all, especially when Shinpei Nogami absolutely lost his shit when Kenny Omega went over the top rope and did that double stomp onto Ishii on the table.
Oh, yeah, that was brutal, and that was well warranted.
that was the Shinpei Nogami moment of the night. If you have New Japan World, definitely worth watching the Japanese commentary. That was Nogami losing his shit at its finest there.
And of course, the conclusion of the match, exactly what you would hope for. It's the one-winged angel for the pin. And
yeah, there was one other move that really surprised me was Ishii getting up for an avalanche Frankensteiner.
Yeah. Woo.
I mean, I guess Scott Steiner was a big man, but he was, you know, kind of tall, where Ishii's just kind of short and squat, but damn, I mean, he just pulled Omega right off the top turnbuckle with that Frankensteiner. It was a brutal thing of beauty, and Nogami kind of lost his shit on that one. Not as much as that stomp, but right. Nogami was losing his shit on that one too.
But I would say, my explanation of that one is what Ishii lacks in the size of Steiner, he makes up for in ferocity.
He does, and just talking about strength, Kenny Omega, there was a point in this match where Kenny had Ishii up on his shoulders, kind of dropped him off his shoulders, caught him in midair, and did a German suplex.
Yeah, Kenny Omega is insanely talented. Have we not said that already? He is.
He's insanely talented, but he is insanely strong, too, to be able to do that to Tomohiro Ishii. Because Ishii may be short, but he is not a small man by any means.
He is built like a brick shithouse. He is tough, and he's thick, and he's thick. So. And
yeah, just dropping him off your shoulders, catching him as he's coming down in front of you, without his feet touching the ground, and then German suplexing him backwards. That is some coordination and some strength right there. But yeah, it ended with a one-wing angel, but it went over 30 minutes. It was what you would expect from these two. There are better matches these two have had. You know, definitely check out their trio of matches from last year. But as I said, this one was not a disappointment.
Yes, Kenny Omega definitely put the strong in strong style in this match. All right.
Kind of hard not to work a strong style when you've got Tomohiro Ishii in there.
Very true. And speaking of strong, we have a strong Canadian from the Great White North joining us tonight, all the way from Ottawa. It is the one and only Peter H.
How's it going, everybody?
It's going well, and thanks for joining us because I know you want to talk about both Hell in a Cell and the developments this week with John Jones that we weren't able to cover on Glove Up or Shut Up.
So we have to talk about John Jones. I'm getting a headache.
We can talk about the Red Blacks instead.
There you go. I like that. John Jones got his USADA suspension basically 15 months retroactive at the end of October. He technically is eligible to be on the Madison Square Garden show in early November. However, Dana White said at the Khabib-Conor presser today he is 100% not on the main event.
Right.
The wording is weird. He's not in the main event. He didn't say he's not on the show, just not the main event.
Yeah, that makes me not trust Dana more than I already don't trust Dana.
Who's more trustworthy, Dana White or Vince McMahon?
You know what? Vince McMahon is gonna fuck you, and he's gonna tell you that he's gonna fuck you. So actually, probably Vince.
I'm just thinking, like, there's no. I mean, I did some digging on this, and the reason he got a lesser suspension was, what was the old line? Snitches get stitches? He snitched to USADA.
Yeah, he basically, we don't know who he ratted out, but he turned state's evidence on some other people who were using performance-enhancing drugs.
So he's not the fan favorite. Now he's not the fighter's favorite either right now.
Yeah, Jones, watch your back in the locker room, brother.
Well, maybe he'll have a situation where someone won't release a hold when the referee says stop.
Yeah, that's exactly the kind of thing we don't want happening. So this is a risky game he's playing, but it's also a risky one in the PR department for UFC because they're basically rolling with this and saying, okay, well, if that's what they think is the right thing to do, we're going to go along with it, even though he should have been suspended for 4 years.
Well, maybe he needs more performance-enhancing drugs in the bedroom. Who knows?
Ooh, yeah, maybe he can get some of those blue vials from Anderson Silva, right?
Something like that. Now, the Conor Khabib presser today, Dana White said John Jones was probably going to fight in 2019. Well, I'll believe it when I see it. The first stare down between Khabib and Conor is pretty good. I know there was extra police presence there just in case. These two guys, not something that's a precedent, but it is Conor McGregor, so you know, something could get out of hand. As far as Hell in the Cell, I really liked the tag match. I thought it was old school booking. I loved it. What I didn't like was the ending of the main event when Brock tore the door down and then climbed on the door to get into the ring. That was pretty funny. F5 both guys and left, and it's like, wait, that's the end? Mick went off the cage, climbed back on, went through the cage, and finished the match. One F5 and these guys, fucking post 87s.
Yeah.
I was asking Stevie before we went on the air, you know, how many fuck finishes has WWE had this year in matches that typically aren't supposed to have fuck finishes?
Yeah.
Hell in a Cell is supposed to be a feud decider, and I remember them doing it in like a last man standing match or something with Styles and Nakamura. It just seems they love going to these fuck finishes in matches that really don't warrant them.
When you saw the logo, like the copyright thing in the bottom corner to end the pay-per-view, it's like, wait, that's it? That's the show? And then I expect like Gargano Ciampa fuck finish near the end just to, oh wait, there's more. Like, hold on, don't jump TV yet.
Yeah,
But
this was like 20 minutes before the top of the hour. They had all shit going, loads of time. They could have done more.
guys, what did you think of the screwdriver with Orton and Hardy?
Oh, stomach turning?
It's a good one.
Yeah, I don't know if Jason saw it or not, but don't go out of your way to see it unless you want to be revolted.
Are we talking like Sid at Sin Revolted, or?
Let's put it this way. You know how Jeff has those gigantic danglers in his earlobes that like, well, imagine sticking a screwdriver through that and twisting it repeatedly. Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, Orton is a vicious son of a bitch.
And that finish when he basically went like back and forth, and then he was hanging onto the top of the cage and went through the table. The sheer impact when he went in, I don't think that was the angle he was supposed to get in because it looked like it sucked. It looked even worse than if it was meant to do that, he sold it perfectly, but it looked more painful than it should have been.
Oh, well, not to mention Orton got off the table before Jeff even crashed through it, which kind of killed the drama of the whole thing.
Yeah, and then the best part was telling the referee, do your job while he pinned him, and the ref's like, he's hurt. Fuck, 1, 2, 3, and like, fucking, I'm out.
Yeah, I'm honestly of the opinion that this should be like UFC, where if the man is unable to continue, the other man wins by technical knockout. There was no reason for a pinfall there.
Well, I forget. Yeah, it's, hopefully that's the end of the feud. I know Jeff is looking, like his days are numbered. I know Matt basically fulfilled all his contractual obligations, so there is that as well. Do you think we'll see Jeff again this year?
First I want to know if we'll see Darth Vader again on this podcast, because somebody's breathing pretty loud right now.
Probably me.
Sorry, Jason, not trying to bust your balls or anything. I can't blame you if you put on the Darth Vader mask to talk about Hell in a Cell, because you're like...
The WWE just drags me over to the dark side.
Exactly, that's just what I was about to say. But...
And then when that finish happened at the end of the pay-per-view, no!
Oh, yeah. This pay-per-view was no buys!
You're right, Jason, though. Like, it is... Hell in a Cell is supposed to be a feud finisher. Now we're setting up to a triple threat at Crown Jewel.
I also said I was sad that they're not calling it Greatest Balls of Fire.
Oh, jeez, not that again.
Missed opportunity,
so on
license
the DV...
to print money.
Yeah, but I mean, if you release the show on Blu-ray and you have some extra features, could it be the uncut edition?
Oh, complete with foreskin.
No. Too far, Steve.
No, that's not. It's Thursday Night AMP. That's not. It's normal, as Anderson Silva would say. It's normal.
It's as normal. It's as normal as the Cleveland Browns losing a football game.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, Hell in a Cell. I mean, it was average to average. Tag match was my favorite. Obviously, like it was a lot of false finishes and a lot of old school mentality. In that, it was really like you had to stay till the end. It wasn't like you know who's gonna win. Like I honestly didn't know who was gonna win. Some of the matches, like, okay, great, moving on. Like, it didn't really have that punch. But the main event, I mean, they gave it enough time, and that really surprised me. The time management of the main event, you'd expect more, and to have Heyman just mace Foley, and that's all of Foley, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it seemed like kind of a waste to bring him in for this pay-per-view and then just do that.
What about Ziggler and Rollins' spot falling off the cage?
Yeah, let's not do too many more of those.
I find like it's being repeated after we saw Owens do it earlier this year.
And I wasn't a huge fan of Owens doing it either. I mean, I get that these guys can take high risks and do it in a way that it's relatively safe, not something that you should do yourself, not something that anybody should really do ever, but they do know how to land on announce tables and crash through them and let them break their fall. So I'm not saying, okay, these guys don't know what they're doing, but it is so easy for a spot like that to go horribly wrong. Like, watch the Mick Foley thing that aired after the pay-per-view, and he talks about all the things that could have gone wrong when they were on top of that cage, like the fact that he didn't go up when Undertaker chokeslammed him the second time, and the fact that he didn't is the reason that he rotated the right way and didn't come straight down on his head, because if he had gone up for the chokeslam, he would have come down on his head and died.
Yeah. I mean, I was lucky enough to see Mick Foley's one-man show a couple years ago now. And to hear in his own words, like in person, it's almost bone chilling when he recounts it.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, when he did the Q&A at the Comic-Con here, it was the same thing. It's like, I came up to him afterwards and I was like, Mick, you didn't have to do all that stuff to get over. We loved you. And he was like, well, here's a little secret. I got paid.
Jason, have you seen him live in person?
I'm trying to think. I think he was gone by the time I went to see ECW shows, and I think he was gone again when I went to see WWF shows before they rebranded it as WWE. So I don't think I have seen him live, but he was one that I liked going back to World Class Championship Wrestling that I watched on ESPN. He was one that I liked, in WCW just because he was crazy and insane and would just willing to inflict pain upon his own body to inflict pain upon his opponents. And it just always caught my attention. I would always enjoy watching Cactus Jack matches.
Well, the only bad part about that is, as much as we loved him for it in the 90s and 2000s, he is paying the price for it in terms of back problems, hip surgeries, knee problems.
Ears that have come off, teeth that have been knocked out.
Damn straight. It's like, okay, you're the hardcore legend for a reason, but you're also not something anybody else should ever imitate ever.
Now, I was first introduced to Mick's, I guess, hardcore style was back in the WCW days when he did that match against Mil Mascaras. And that one spot where he did like the nasty plunge and just that crack when he hit the ground, it's like, God damn, that's a opening show match?
Yeah, and Mick took those kind of risks all the time.
Yeah, the network is great for watching old Mick Foley clips.
Yeah, but some of them make you wince. You actually feel the pain when he hits.
What did you guys think of the Hell in a Cell changing the color to red?
A little wacky. Again, I'm gonna say I'm guessing Jason probably didn't see that, so he doesn't know.
My comment is, if there's one thing you're going to rip off of Impact Wrestling, why is it that?
I'm told Vince McMahon finally realized that the Hell in a Cell cage was 20 years old, and he was like, God damn, we gotta change it, freshen it up.
Bring out the old blue cage from back in the 80s.
Oh, my favorite.
Well,
Bring that cage back.
I'm also under the impression that they actually rubberized the cage, like they put that spray-on stuff that you spray in a truck bed lining. You know, so the cage is actually safer now.
Yeah, I remember seeing stuff like that with the Punjabi prison match when they brought Great Khali back for that feud that Nakamura had with what's Jinder. Oh my goodness, yeah, that was bad.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine being ringside for that and they put up the cage like I can't see shit?
Yeah, I've been in a few cage matches where I've thought that.
Well, at least I hope they don't bring the Thunderdome from Mexico.
No, that's not gonna happen.
Alright guys, well I'm gonna check out the rest of this football game. I'll leave the rest of the show to you two. Have yourselves a wonderful night, okay?
Alright, thanks Peter. We appreciate you stopping in.
Take care guys, bye.
Real football's on Friday nights.
Exactly. See you guys.
Yep, see ya. And now we can get on to the Destruction in Beppu card.
Yeah, Peter, the one guy that, understands when I talk about Canadian football.
Indeed.
And he lives there in Ottawa, home of Trevor Harris and Brad Sinopoli.
Mm-hmm.
Name drop some CFL players there. So yeah, we did have the Destruction in Beppu card, another 1/3 of an actual pay-per-view, and this is where we had the uncles, Stevie.
Oh, thank you. I knew I was getting mixed up.
We had one uncle team and a young lion versus the other uncle team and a different young lion. So we had Hiroshi Tenzan, Satoshi Kojima, and Yota Tsuji taking on Yuji Nagata, Manabu Nakanishi, and Yuya Uemura.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and the Monster Morning team, as I prefer to call them, defeated the ornery uncles.
It's 2018, and Nagata is still tapping people out with the Nagata lock.
I got no problem with Blue Justice tapping out anybody.
Especially when he goes into demon mode. That's just awesome.
I know. Yuji Nagata, I mean, if he's doing this in his 70s, I'll still mark out for it.
I'll watch it, because they use him right. They protect him and they use him right in New Japan. Like, I wouldn't want to see him night in and night out in a singles match, but yeah, an opening match, a tag team with his buddy Nakanishi, with his other buddies, the uncles on the other side. Perfect.
Mm-hmm. I feel like him and Suzuki are the two guys that can wrestle forever, and I will never get upset about it.
But Suzuki, I mean, he does do the singles matches, and he would be the main event at the end of this card in a singles match. We'll get to that later, but my goodness, yeah, just the level Suzuki is at his age is just astounding.
Yeah, and here's a weird one for you that comes up after this match. David Finlay and Ren Narita teaming together to defeat Toa Hinari and Shota Umino. And I say
when there's 4 guys in the ring together and David Finlay is the most senior tenured one there.
Thank you. You stole my line. That's just what I was about to say.
David Finlay is the savvy ring veteran of these 4.
Yeah, that's just bizarre to the maximum. That's more max than max headroom.
And yeah, he hit a stunner on El Hijo del Zapato Rojos.
Yes, son of Red Shoes.
Son of Red Shoes ate the pin, which you kind of figured was going to happen in this match anyway. But yeah, I guess that's Finley's new stunner finisher this week is a stunner.
Yep. And then in the why the fuck was this on the card category?
We know why this was on the card, Stevie.
Yeah, we do.
This was Suzuka murdering a young lion straight up, and we knew how this one was going to go. We knew how this one was going to end. No surprises here whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Izuka loses by disqualification and just completely murdering this young lion.
Right. So technically Yoshida wins, but not really.
It's a W on paper, but yeah, being stretchered out is not fun.
No. But what was fun, Liger, Tiger Mask, Kushida, and Taguchi versus Will Ospreay, Rocky Romero, Sho, and Yo.
Yeah, we got to see Rocky Romero again. I'm hoping that he will continue to make more appearances in the ring because he's okay as a manager, but he is just a clown prince in the ring.
Indeed.
And again, he once again ate the pin.
Yeah, well.
Once again from Tiger Mask.
Yeah, I guess there's a running theme there, so we can go with that.
He must have lost a poker game to him or something.
Maybe. Okay, so next up was Killer Elite Squad against Beretta and Chucky T.
Which was good. I mean, this is what I like to see. You have one tag team against another. The crowd was surprisingly into it for two Gaijin teams going at it there.
I feel like that's actually not so surprising anymore, given the number of Gaijins that now work regularly in New Japan.
Yeah, I mean, I guess going back to 2013, 2014, before they went to Noah, Killer Elite Squad was there and kind of dominating. So, I mean, I guess New Japan fans just kind of think of Killer Elite Squad as a New Japan tag team.
Honestly, I do at this point. It wasn't until Peach Machine mentioned that he knew the guys, I was like, yeah, I kind of forgot they were Gaijins. I just think of them as New Japan wrestlers.
They've just been in New Japan for so long, and yeah, at this point, so is Beretta.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, God, when did he come over from WWE?
So long ago that I honestly have forgotten. I remember that there was a period on the Indies where he was working Pro Wrestling Guerrilla as Trent ? But I don't even remember how many years ago that was.
Wow. But yeah, Beretta will make appearances on the Indies. Yeah, we've got the best friends there, and Beretta ended up eating the pinfall on this one. We had Killer Elite Squad kill him with the Killer Bomb.
Yes, indeed. So, a satisfying finish. And that leads us to Zack Sabre, Boring as Fuck Kanemaru, and El Desperado against Los Ingobernables, Evil, Sonata, and Bushi. And there is no justice in this world because LIJ lost.
They lost, although, yeah, Zack Sabre Jr. picked up the pin, but yeah, I mean, it was LIJ without Naito, and Kanemaru was on the other side, and I just really could not care less about this match.
Well, I care because the King of Dancing is in the match, so you know I'm a mark. Yeah, anytime Laser Fingers is on my screen, I'm a happy man.
Laser Fingers and the plastic sky.
Yes, and the purple mascara. You gotta get that in too.
You gotta dress up like that for Halloween this year, Steve.
I swear to God, I'm gonna do it. I just need to find all the accoutrements.
Yeah, find a singlet and find a sky.
I already have the sky. I've gone as Death for Halloween, so I've got the sky.
All you need are the laser fingers.
Yes, I do. But after that, we have Tanahashi, Magabe, Honma, and Juice Robinson. And they faced Okada,
Chaos.
Yano, Yoshihashi, and Jay White. Yes, Chaos.
Hey, another recurring theme here. Guess who ate the pin for Chaos?
I will say it was Yoshihashi.
Yes. Once again, Yoshihashi eats the loss for his team. He's kind of being relegated to being like the B-level talent for Chaos again.
Seems
Every
like
once in a while, he elevates himself and shows that he can do a little better, and then they just push him right back down.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate trend right now. And then,
But yeah, I mean, we have to be reminded that Juice Robinson is good, so.
Now, remember when I said earlier we were going to have a debate about which Never title was the more useless?
Yeah.
That is this moment, because Taichi defeated Haruki Goto for the Never Openweight title.
And I'll put it this way, you may have a case for the Never Singles title being more useless because this was the only singles title match on the show, yet it was not the main event.
Yeah, that tells you everything. On top of the fact that Taichi is a champion of a title that nobody can ever remember who has it in the first place.
Kind of like the six-man titles, too. And like I said, with the six-man titles, it's a six-man title. You don't get your expectations high for any six-man title anywhere.
As I told Jonathan Courtwright before we went on the air tonight, this title hasn't meant anything since it was held by Katsuyori Shibata. He was the last man to make this title mean something.
What would be really nice is if it was an actual open weight title where you would have, a cruiserweight and a heavyweight face off and just have them display their individual styles, and whoever the better man is walks off with the belt that night.
See,
you don't get that.
That's why it was believable when Shibata was the never openweight champion, because he has that kicking style where he believably could face anybody of any size and just maul them with kicks.
He's in the heavyweight division, but he's on the lighter end of the heavyweight spectrum.
Right, so he was a perfect blend with almost any size opponent in a match for that title.
And unfortunately, it's just another title in New Japan, and there's, it's no different than, any match that's contested for the Intercontinental Championship or for the World Heavyweight Championship. It's just kind of there.
I'm going to be perfectly honest about it, and this is either a compliment or a diss, depending on where you look at it, but this means less to me than the NXT North American title.
Yeah, the title is pretty useless, and we had lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of interference from Suzuki-gun in this match.
Right, so not only is it a fuck title, it's a fuck match.
Kind of. I guess there was a clean. It wasn't like, interference that directly caused the pin. It led to the pin, but.
Well, you notice I didn't say fuck finish.
Yeah, it wasn't quite a fuck finish, and I will give credit because each man kicked out of the other guy's finisher, and Taichi actually kicked out of a GTR, but before that he also kicked out of a Shoten. He kicked out of two of Gato's finishers.
Yeah, so,
and the crowd just gasped when he kicked out of that GTR. It's kind of like they knew what was coming, like when somebody in WWE kicks out of a finisher that almost no one ever kicks out of, you're like, oh, the crowd just gasps because they know he's going to win, and that's kind of what happened when Taichi kicked out of the GTR in this one.
Right, it would be like The Rock kicking out of a Stone Cold Stunner.
Pretty much, yeah. It was like, it's just unheard. Like the first time The Rock kicked out of a Stone Cold Stunner, that's kind of what it's like.
Exactly. So, I will say good on them for the drama, but still, what a useless title.
And it was kind of old school Taichi. He went back to the Black Mephisto, kind of that, almost like an Emerald Fusion type driver, but a little more twisted.
Honestly, other than the fact that Goto was in this match, I have no problem with this match.
Other than the fact that Goto was in it and there was like 75 run-ins from Suzuki-gun, Taichi himself was not that. Taichi was less Taichi than usual.
Yes, Will, are you paying attention to this? Are you listening to the replay? Because we're actually complimenting Taichi. I'm
not praising Taichi, but I'm not burying him either. I'm just saying he was less Taichi than usual and that Gato was worse. Although Will likes Gato too, so.
Well, I'm just saying when we say Taichi was less worse than usual, that is a compliment.
That is a compliment, yeah, because usually it's one of the most shit things on the card is a Taichi match.
No. But, as with the last card we talked about, the main event completely overshadows the co-main event.
Yeah, and you want to talk about winning the battle but losing the war. That's kind of what happened to Tetsuya Naito here.
Well, yeah, because Mizu is famous for laying a beating on people, and he did so in very, very stylish fashion here.
In typical Mizu fashion, where he will, brawl with you outside of the ring and then get you into the ring and put you in all kinds of brutal submission holds.
Mm-hmm. And few people make it look as good as Mizu does.
Yeah, he did it for real, so he knows how it's done.
Yeah. They call Zack Sabre tap you out, but this guy really will tap you out.
Yeah, Zack Sabre Jr.'s boss can tap you out just a little bit better.
Oh, a little? No, more like all the way.
This was the guy that co-founded Pancrase, so yeah, he knows a little bit about submission fighting.
Yeah, so if you
just a tiny bit.
If you want believable looking leg locks and arm bars in pro wrestling, don't call Ronda Rousey. Call Minoru Suzuki.
Goodness, and yeah, give Naito credit for selling that leg lock in this match. He was just kind of writhing and wincing and doing the typical Naito selling, like, oh my god, this hurts, which is quite a difference from his usual tranquillo attitude.
Oh yeah, I was getting flashbacks going all the way back to earlier in this year when we had Okada and Mizu, and Okada was selling the leg locks. That's what it reminded me of.
Or when we had, when Mizu took the title off of Tanahashi.
Oh yeah, same thing there too.
Speaking of which, is that IWGP Intercontinental title ever going to come back to New Japan?
Well, maybe when Fozzy is done touring.
Will that make an appearance at Wrestle Kingdom? Maybe. That might be the next time we see it.
Honestly, having seen Jericho play live here in Omaha, I got no complaints. He can take all the time he wants.
Yeah, it would have just been a little bit better had he come out in the Pentagon Jr. mask.
Yeah, well, if he had, that would have started an all-in chant, and I would have been the one starting it.
Hopefully we get an all-in 2 next year.
No, they're teasing it. So far, the working title is All-In 2, Double or Nothing.
Double or Nothing, yeah, it's the name I've heard floated around. It would be nice.
Yeah,
I wouldn't want to see it done monthly, but yearly or quarterly would be just awesome.
I think once a year it could be a big enough draw to get 10,000 people to a building. I think if you did it more often than that, it would lose the luster.
Kind of. It might also help to build up the NWA, just kind of have all these different brands come together under like an NWA moniker show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, All-In's got that kind of pull. If they continue to use Cody and the Young Bucks to put it together, they can get the ROH guys, the New Japan guys, the Indie guys. They can get everybody.
So is Cody still NWA champion, or did some 70-year-old janitor win it?
No, he is, I believe his next title defense is against Willie Mack.
Oh, alrighty. Well, that should be a fun match.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. And if you guys have never seen Willie Mack and you're listening to our podcast right now, just YouTube search the name, and he is a mountain of a man.
American strong style.
Yeah, big time. And this guy was actually signed to a WWE developmental deal, and they released him from it because he has some sort of, I guess, pre-existing heart condition, and they didn't want to take the risk. But he's been working full-time ever since then, so it's obviously not that much of an issue.
Yeah, I remember seeing him in early seasons of Lucha Underground.
Oh, yeah, as the Mac.
Yep.
Oh, by the way, Lucha Underground has a new champion.
Who is it this week?
Marty the Moth Martinez.
Oh, boy.
I shit you not. He beat Pentagon for the title.
I guess that means Pentagon is on his way out, which is a good thing.
I've heard that he's, under contract for at least 2 more years, so I don't know. Or maybe that was Ray Phoenix and, Bandito? Who else am I thinking of? Ray Phoenix and somebody.
I would guess, yeah, Pentagon could make bank north of the border here in the States. I hope he wouldn't go to WWE, but, yeah, even if he signed with Impact, or if he went to ROH, or if he went to New Japan.
Speaking of Impact.
There's just so much more of an impact that he could make.
Yeah,
so much of a bigger stage that he could be on and perform on
you're
that
really,
isn't WWE and isn't Lucha Underground.
You're setting me up with the Impact Wrestling puns here because I have to go tape Impact Implosion in a minute. But before we do that, I want some cheap plugs.
Let's see, what can I plug? I will plug the CFL on Reddit. Check out CFL streams on Reddit. I will plug Lazy Man as well. Check out Reddit Lazy Man, and you can pirate NHL games for free. Preseason games are already airing, so be sure to check that out. I will plug veggiebending.wordpress.com. You can find me on Twitter. I'm at Great Sudoku.
All right, and my cheap plugs, I'm going to start with Scott the Waz on YouTube. I think he's one of the most underrated YouTubers right now. I put him in the same category as guys like Tech Moan and Pat the NES Punk. I think he's very entertaining and very informative, and I think if you don't already subscribe to Scott the Waz, you definitely should. And of course, you can subscribe to my video game channel to hear more stuff like Jason and I talked about at the beginning of this show, youtube.com/MMF187. This website also has its own YouTube channel, AngryMarks.com. So subscribe to that and you'll get replays of our shows. And we're also on iTunes, keyword Angry Marks. And that's where you can get all the shows like Rowan Unrow's NXT recaps and Arya Whitner's Mae Young Classic recaps. And when Will gets back from Hurricane Florence, you'll also get the Wrestling Nerdcast. So hopefully he's staying safe and dry.
Hang in there, Will.
Yes, indeed. Hang in, Will. Hang in, everybody that's in the Carolinas and all throughout the Gulf. But Thursday Night AMP is signing out for now, and we'll see you again in 7 days.